Hello everyone, I am Dan Stapleton and this is Civilization 6, which I am currently in the process of reviewing, but I'm only 10 hours into my first game on the review version, and that means it's nowhere near enough time to review a Civilization game. I would not even dare try to do that, but I wanted to let you know what I think of it so far, and I'm going to keep playing it for the next week or so, and let you know what I think at that point as well. But for now, let's cover some of the basics you might want to know before you dive in, if you're very eager, which you should be because it's very good. This game is surprisingly complex relative to the last couple of Civilization games. It has espionage, it has trade, it has religion, it has great people, it has archaeology, it has pretty much every system that either of the previous two games had after two full expansions. It feels like really, really well, built out. To the point where it's a little bit intimidating when you jump in at first, almost overwhelming. It's like I don't know how any of these systems work because they're familiar systems, but they work in different ways. So it is a little bit difficult to wrap your brain around. At the same time, this is my first game on King level. It's kind of my second game. I played one on a preview version that was pretty close to complete, but this one I'm playing on King level difficulty. It's 290 turns in, and I'm winning, which according to the scoreboard anyway. And I think I'm getting close to I'm winning in science and culture, and not so good in military or religion, but I'm not really focusing on those. England is my buddy, so nobody's gonna mess with me. You don't really have to know how everything works in order to do pretty well, at least your first few times around. You can be competitive just focusing on learning a few things at once, and that makes it fun to experiment. I don't know how vicious it's going to be on deity difficulty. I'm going to try and figure out how most things work before I try that. But so far it's been very fun to play on King, and it's given me a run for my money. So the cities are a very big change here because previously you would build all the buildings all in one, they would all appear in one tile basically. And you can see individual buildings on this one, but most of the buildings, a lot of the specialized buildings anyway, are now broken out into districts. Like this is an industrial district with a workshop and a factory in it, and without that you can't build a workshop or a factory at all. And the number of districts you can build are limited by the population of your city. So especially early on, you have to specialize and figure out, well, I'm going to build an industrial zone in this city, I'm going to build a science zone in this city, and really break that out. And that's an interesting decision to begin with. So you've got just a level you never had to consider in Civilization before. It's like how do I want these cities to function? On top of that, you've got wonders, and I can show you some wonders over here. Here we go. Yeah, this is my capital. I've built a couple wonders here, but they take up a whole tile as well. And they give you obviously very good bonuses, but the drawback is that you're never going, if you build a bunch of districts and a bunch of wonders, they actually take those tiles out. And here's another one. They take those tiles out of the pool that you can work with to harvest resources and food. So the more if you overload all those things into one city, you're really limiting how big that city can grow in the future, and that can really hamstring yourself, or it could be what you want to do. So that's another very interesting choice to have to make, and it's a long-term consideration you have to think about when you're first planning out your city, which I think is a big improvement over the way cities have worked in the past. It also makes them more vulnerable. Like when you're under attack, people can come in and pillage one of your districts, or one or more of your districts. So without actually taking over your city, they're really impairing the progress. And you have to go back and repair all those cities, and that takes all those districts, and that takes time. So it's a different form of warfare. You can also see what kind of thing that a city is focusing on just by looking at it, which is a big change from how things have worked in the past, and I think an improvement. So also each city's happiness is broken out individually now based on how many amenities they have, and those can be anything from from luxury items to entertainment structures to great people to all of these options here, and that means that it's much easier to expand quickly. So I've got a pretty vast empire here that I was able to build out without worrying about, like, if I build a new city, is it going to crash happiness in my capital? So I just cranked out a bunch of them and have been doing really well here. And that's a different pace than you see in Civilization 5, which I like a lot. It's a kind of land grab kind of phase of the game that feels like it adds some tension. So there are a couple of changes that Firaxis made in the mid and late game that make a big difference as to how much clutter you have to deal with, that I'm a big fan of. One is they changed workers, so they're now called builders. Workers have a set number of charges that they can use before they just evaporate into thin air. And that means you don't have a bunch of workers just, like, once they've improved all the tiles, they just set to automate and run around and shuffle around and just add time to calculating new turns, right? So that makes just the number of things moving around on the screen in the middle of the game and the late game, it cut down drastically, which I think it's long overdue change. The other thing is that military units have the concept of armies and corps, where a corps is a combination of two units, two of the same type of unit into one more powerful version, and a army like this one is a combination of three of them. So I combined three of these elephant, they're called, varus. You combine three of them into a more powerful version of the same thing, and that just makes a world of difference when you have a large army. Like this army could use with a little bit more collapsing, but like this is three of them, this is two of them. So instead of having just a wall of all these units crammed together, just taking up every single tile and making it impossible to move anything around, you can combine them and really cut down on the congestion, which I think is just a fantastic change. So I haven't fought like a full-scale war on the review version yet, so I'm not fully, I don't have a full grasp of how the combat works, but it seems to be much more based on, like before in Civilization 5 with 1 unit per tile, was much more based on adjacency bonuses for flanking. Whereas here it's that exists once you unlock it, but it's much more about using support units, and that can be things like a battering ram. I think that's one, yeah, a battering ram, and that will sit under a regular unit and give it a bonus against walls. So there are a bunch of things like that, in addition to ranged units. I like the government system a lot as well. They did a great job of making it so it's very flexible and will work for whatever you want it to do. So this is the Merchant Republic, and I can't switch governments right now because I don't have enough gold. But you can switch to any of these things, and you can see here they each have a different number of or configuration of different colored slots. And then if you go to here, you can see all these cards that can slot into any slot of the corresponding color, or you got wild card slots down here where you can put any color. And that really lets you change your bonuses around, not at will, because it does cost money unless you're doing it once you unlock a new set using the civics tree, but frequently. And so it can really change your government to whatever you want. I also really like the legacy bonuses for government types. So the longer you stick with a government type, the more powerful the bonus is. So you're encouraged to not just change the actual government type frequently. Plus each government type has its own bonuses, and you've got all these 10 government types. I'm a big fan of that system so far. International diplomacy is much clearer. Let's see. Let's go look at my bestest buddy here, Victoria. I know exactly. I had a very good start with her because I was on the same continent as her, and she likes people that are on her continent. I did start a city on a continent that she wanted to occupy, so that hurt our relationship a little bit. But we've had a long history here of we've been declared friends and declared allies. We've had good trade relations. I've established an embassy, so we've had all of these and open borders. we've had all of these things that have added up, and we can see exactly why she likes me or why she doesn't. And that transparency makes a huge difference. If we go and look at the Germans, who like me a little bit less, you can see here that. So they don't like that I'm a friend of their enemy. They don't like that I have a different government style. They don't like that I've been working with the city-states, which is kind of an irrational demand that he has. It's like, don't cozy up to a city-state. But those bonuses are really good, so there's no way I'm not going to do that. But there are some of these bonuses that are just these irrational wants, and that will mean you inevitably run afoul of some people. But you can compensate by establishing embassies and just having pleasing them in other ways. This first one is going to be the same every time for every unique leader, but this one draws from a pool of random ones, and you can't see it until you have a good relationship with them. So let's see. I think there's still someone. Maybe I can see all of them at this point, but until you make friends with people, you can't. They won't. They don't. That's me. You won't be able to see like all of their agendas, and that can be good or it can be bad. I don't like when I first meet a new civilization near the middle of the game, so everything's pretty well developed, but like they'll immediately encounter me and not like me because of something I have no way of knowing. And the only ways to figure out what those reasons are and potentially improve that relationship is by using spies and other less expedient means. So it can be a while before you figure out why someone doesn't like what you're doing. But on the whole, I really like the system. It's got much more personality than previous civilizations do, and it's much more transparent. You can understand why somebody wants something. You can understand what you're supposed to do in order to make them happier or angrier. The system of declaring war is cool because usually everyone will be really mad at you if you just surprise attack, but there are ways you can mitigate that with like, and you have to unlock these policies in the civics tree, which is a whole nother ball of wax. It's a whole nother tech tree, really. You can unlock ways of attacking people that are relatively justified, so people won't be as mad at you. Like if you have if you're very technologically advanced over someone else, you can say, oh, this is a colonial war, so you're just invading and civilizing them, for example, and people will still be mad, but not as mad. And you can make that up to them. So it's a much more nuanced system of diplomacy. Probably not as nuanced as Civilization Beyond Earth had. Like I liked a lot of those agreements they had worked in there, but very a huge improvement, and I am very pleased with the way that's going. Could still use some things to actually do with leaders when you first meet them instead of say hi, bye. So I have seen a couple of bugs, although let me say up front that performance has been great. I have had no crashes on either this or the preview version, and it's just performing really nicely. The load time to load into a save game took about a minute and a half, but that there's nothing after that. So a turn doesn't take too long to compute, even as you get into the mid and late game. Let's see. Let's have a turn go. But I've seen a couple of bugs. One of them being that I had this guy. Let's see, the Viking King here. At first, he didn't like me because he wants he respects civilizations that have good navies, and I hadn't built a single ship. So for a while, he was unfriendly with me. He didn't like that I had no navy. He kept popping up and saying, "You're too easy to raid." Although he never attacked me, but suddenly I looked in here and he was like super happy, and he popped up and said, "Oh, let's be friends." I looked in here and it said he actually had +20 because I had a strong navy. I'm like, I have never built a ship. have me mistaken for someone else, but that's fine. So I immediately established an embassy and declared him a friend, and that kind of flipped him. So now, even though he figured out I don't have a navy, he's still merely likes me for other reasons. So that bug worked out in my favor. Oh, by the way, I also really like that I can jump into those menus and look at diplomacy and stuff while a turn is computing. Like that's a even when turns do get relatively lengthy to figure out, you can do stuff while that's happening. And that takes the edge off. So there was that, and then I had one instance where Queen Victoria over here, I had a trade negotiation going on, and she was like, I would never accept that, and then like she just changed her mind as I was just messing with things here. She just went from no to yes. Well, she definitely wants me to give her a gift there, but let's see. This is more like make this deal more equitable, and she just said, "Oh, okay, you can have it." So, the bugs so far have worked out in my favor, so they've been fine. But on the whole, this has been a very good experience so far. Like I said, I will continue to play for another week or so and give you my full review at that time once I've gotten a few games under my belt and figured out a little bit more about how things work. But in the meantime, we'll have a lot more for you on Civilization 6, so please stick with IGN.